Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me again. So today we'll be talking about the strategies and materials you need to pass your USMLE Step 2 CK. I've already made a video on the materials and strategies you need to pass your USMLE Step 1. So today we'll be focusing on Step 2 CK. If this is your first time visiting this channel, please like, share and subscribe. Now, I'll be starting with the materials you need to pass your USMLE Step 2 CK. The first material on my list is UWorld QBank. UWorld is the best QBank in my opinion, in the sense that it has a lot of questions that cover most questions you are going to see in your exams. And apart from that, UWorld explains all the questions and answers very well. Like, for instance, if you have 5 options to a question, they are going to explain the answer in detail, and they will also explain the wrong options for you and tell you why those options were wrong. So UWorld is the best QBank in my opinion. Although some people prefer AMBOSS, but I have used AMBOSS a little and I still prefer UWorld to AMBOSS. Of course, you can always choose what works for you. You can either decide to use AMBOSS or use UWorld QBank, but personally I would recommend UWorld QBank. Yeah. The second material on my list is first aid textbook. Although there are some people that said that UWorld is all you need, you don't need to read any first aid book, you don't need to read any book, just focus on your question bank and you'll be fine. Well, I would say get your first aid textbook. Even if you don't read the whole textbook back to back, you can look for subjects or systems that you are finding difficult in your UWorld. You read these subjects and systems in first aid. After reading and getting a lot of information, understanding a lot of things, then you can go back to your UWorld to keep solving. So I would say first aid and the UWorld question bank go hand in hand. So get your first aid book. You don't have to read everything, just focus on the systems or subjects you find difficult. Yeah. The next resource material on my list is AMBOSS. I know I already mentioned AMBOSS earlier, where I said, oh, you can use UWorld QBank or AMBOSS QBank. But AMBOSS is very, very important for ethics and quality improvement questions. In UWorld, of course, you see some ethics and quality improvement questions, but they are not a lot. But in AMBOSS, you see a lot of ethics and quality improvement questions. So use AMBOSS for your ethics and quality improvement questions. Revise them as many times as possible, because AMBOSS is the best question bank for this type of questions, your ethics and your quality improvement. Yeah. And nowadays the exam has a lot of quality improvement questions and ethics questions, and the annoying thing about ethics and quality improvement is that there is no formula to know them. You just have to keep using your intuition and your medical knowledge and whatever it is you have gathered from medical school or from reading textbooks and QBanks. But my annoyance is that no matter how well you prepare with these questions or textbooks, you will still see some quality improvement questions or ethics questions that are just out of the way, and you'll be like, where did they get this from? How do they expect us to know what to do in this type of ethical scenario, or what do they expect us to do in this type of situation where quality improvement is involved? So all I can say is practice as much as you can, and on the exam day, try your best to answer these questions. Yeah. The next resource material on my list is Divine Intervention podcast. I am yet to see anybody that has studied for USMLE Step 2 CK that didn't use Divine Intervention podcast. This podcast is very high yield, in the sense that Divine made a lot of podcast where he explained a lot of systems, where he explained a lot of antibiotics that are used for some certain microorganisms. He also made videos on a lot of high-yield topics, high-yield medications, a lot of things, a lot of high-yield stuffs that are there. So if you can watch Divine Intervention podcast for your USMLE Step to CK, honestly, it's going to help you. And when you go to the Divine website, you would see the highlighted recommended podcast. So just look for the recommended ones and focus on those ones, especially the one for antibiotics, the one for microorganisms, the one for high-yield questions that come out in different systems. So just look out for the recommended ones and, listen to those ones. There is no time. If not, I would have told you the recommended ones. But once you go to the Divine podcast, you will get to know the recommended podcast for USMLE Step 2 CK. Yeah. The next resource material is CMS forms. CMS forms is like questions that the US medical students used to prepare for their mocks and tests in school. So people still read these CMS forms for USMLE Step 2 CK just to get more exposure to a lot of questions. Apart from getting exposure to AMBOSS and UWorld QBank, you can also get exposure to the CMS forms. And it is advisable to read the latest CMS forms. Let's say if you are reading cardiovascular system, you can read the last 5 CMS forms under the cardiovascular system. You don't have to read all the CMS forms for cardiovascular system. Do you understand? Let's say you are reading maybe O and G, you can read the last 5 or 6 CMS forms for obstetrics and gynecology. The same thing for pediatrics, the same for internal medicine, surgery, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and these CMS forms can be gotten from a Telegram group. I will be dropping the link for this Telegram group where you can get some CMS forms for your exam. So the next resource material on my list is the MBMEs. Honestly, no one can do without MBMEs if that person is trying to write USMLE, whether USMLE Step 1 or USMLE Step 2. At the end of the day, you need your MBMEs. And I would say MBMEs should be the last resource material you read because MBMEs are mocks. So these exams are going to test your knowledge. They are going to help us know how prepared you are for this exam. So read the MBME forms after you are done with your UWorld, after you are done with your first aid, after you are done with your CMS forms. So MBME should be your last. And when you are reading MBMEs for USMLE Step 2, focus on MBME 10 to 15. That's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't know if 16 is out. If 16 is out, also read MBME 16. So if you have money, you can subscribe on the MBME website and get the MBME question that's used their own timing to do the question. It's usually 200 questions for 5 hours. So you can use their timing, do the 200 questions for 5 hours. Or if you don't have money, you can get the PDF versions that are on Telegram. So these PDF versions, all you need to do is also time yourself for 5 hours, kind of simulate the exam arena, the whole anxiety, the whole fastness, everything. Just simulate the exam arena and try to use that method to write the exam using the PDF form. Okay, yeah. Apart from the MBME, you can also read the UWorld self-assessment question. The UWorld self-assessment question is a mock that you have to do when you're done with your UWorld. So you can also do it. I think it's usually 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so you can do 3 of them. and you can see how far you are going in the exam. So let's say when you finish U-Word, you do like 1 or 2 U-Word self-assessments, and then you see your score. After that, you now maybe revise all your U-Word wrongs. That's the ones you got wrong. You revise them. After revising them, you do new NBMEs or new U-Word self-assessment questions. Yeah. Another research material that I highly recommend is Anki. Anki is an app where you can jot down things. So you can create an Anki deck, and you use it for your revisions later. So you can be creating as many Anki decks as possible every day, and when it is time for you to revise, you can be revising. The importance of Anki is that it helps you with your revision towards the end of your preparation. If you don't want to use Anki deck, you can also get maybe a book, a jotter, and be writing down some topics or information that you don't want to forget. Let's say something on cardiovascular system, something on pediatrics, something on ONG. All those questions that you keep failing over and over again, you can write down some things on those topics that you're always failing. I believe that when you write down something and you come back to read it, it sticks better. So try to write down with your notebook, notepad, or write down in the Anki deck. I prefer Anki deck because it helps with revision. Let's say you have 1000 Anki deck question and answers prepared, right? The ones you do today are not the ones you will do tomorrow, so they will keep reshuffling the question and answers for you. That's why I think you should use an Anki deck app. Yeah. Now that we are done with the materials you need in order to pass your USMLE Step 2, so now we'll be focusing on the strategies you need in order to successfully pass this exam. The first strategy on my list is have a timeline. You can give yourself 6 months, you can give yourself 1 year. Tell yourself, I need to be ready for this exam in 6 months and I need to write it in 6 months. If you are working, you might need to have a longer timeline, in the sense that you might need to give yourself like a year to prepare for this exam. Of course, you have a full-time job or a part-time job, depending. So you will need longer time to actually prepare for this exam. But what matters is that you give yourself a timeline, you follow through to it, and you read every day. Every single day, try to solve a question, try to have a target, and try to achieve that target for your exam. Yeah. The next strategy is that you should start small. Start small and then build. Let's say you are using U-Word QBank. You can start with 20 questions a day. From 20 questions a day, you can increase to 30 questions a day, to 40 questions a day. So let's say this week you are doing 40 questions a day. Next week you can increase to maybe 80 questions a day, 120 questions a day, depending on how fast you are and how fast you can assimilate information. Preferably, I would recommend you start with 20 questions and then build to 80 questions. So let's say the first 2 weeks you are doing 20 questions, then the next 3 to 4 weeks you are doing 40 questions. You can be doing 40 questions a day until maybe in your second month or third month you can start doing 80 questions a day. So everything depends on you. How well are you assimilating the information? How fast are you retaining information? And how well are you able to understand and be able to solve the subsequent questions accurately? So try to start small and then build. If you see that the maximum you can take a day is 40, just remain on that 40. Right? There is no point building to 80, and then when you are doing 80, it's more like you are just trying to cover the question and you are not actually understanding what you are reading. If the maximum you can assimilate is 40, stick to that 40. But when you increase to 80 and you see that you are still assimilating good, you are still assimilating better, then you can stick to 80. But if you say, oh no, 80 is too cumbersome, I cannot, You can just remain at 40 or increase to 60 and just remain at 60. Everything depends on the person. Don't say, oh, because my friend is doing 80 or 120, let me also do 120. It doesn't work like that. Our brains are different. We work differently. We function differently. So do what works for you. All I can say is start small and build. Yeah. The next strategy on my list is exercise, sleep well, and eat well. You need to eat well because your brain needs glucose. When you are studying, you realize that sometimes you get dizzy, you get tired. It's as though your visions are getting blurry. It might be hypoglycemia coming in. So always have food in the house. Always have something to eat, and never ever get hungry when you are studying for this exam. Try and sleep. Honestly, you need good sleep because you don't want to get burnt out during your preparation. Get good sleep, at least 5 hours to 6 hours sleep. You know, when you sleep and then you wake up the next day or a few hours later, you feel replenished. You feel like, oh, I have new strength. So with that new strength, you can study again. Another thing is exercise. You know, when you are studying, you are just seated down at a spot and you're just reading. So try to stretch your legs. Maybe when you study for 5 hours, you can stretch your leg, go out, take a walk, or take a rope and skip, or just do something, right? Always try to exercise. You know, you need to be healthy. You need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to exercise. You need all these things for your body to be healthy. It's only a healthy person that can actually go for this exam and come back, right? So try and be healthy. You don't want to get sick because you are studying for exams. You know, people actually complain of burnt out, and I think that one of the reasons why they do so is because they are not actually taking care of their bodies when they were studying for the exam. So believe you me, if you take care of your body, there is no way you will get burnt out during this exam. Yeah. The next strategy is that you should take breaks. If you study for 5 hours now, you can take break, make a call, take a walk, watch a movie, go and cook food, whatever it is that you enjoy, just do it. When you're done, you come back, you read for another 4 hours, you take another break. Maybe you can take 1 hour to 2 hours break. Then you come back again, you read, you take breaks. The reason why you need to take break is just so that you don't get burnt out, just so that you don't get frustrated, just so that the information you've gathered would sink in very well before you gather more information. Yeah. The next strategy is you should have a study partner or study partners. I would recommend that you should have at least 2 to 3 persons in your group. You should have people that have similar timelines as you, in the sense that, let's say you want to write the exam in 6 months, let their own timeline also be 5 to 6 months. Like, let the difference not be much. It shouldn't be more than 1 month. The difference should not be more than 1 month. Let's say I'm writing in 4 months time, this person is writing in 5 months time, this person is writing in 6 months time. Let the timeline be similar, and even if they are different, let the difference not be so much. And you should get people that are also serious, people that you know that they want to be studying every day just like you. So you guys should always meet every day. You can meet every day, maybe for 3 hours, and you should try to solve at least 20 to 30 questions. So when you are solving a question together with these people, you guys can bring out a question, and then this person says what he or she thinks the answer is. This person will also say what he or she thinks, and then you also say what you think. So at the end of the day, you guys will click on an answer, and then you see whether you are wrong or right. Then someone else or someone amongst you can read the explanation, read why the answer is correct, read why the other options were wrong. So just do this thing until you are able to finish 20 to 30 questions a day. So you can meet every day, and maybe you can decide to take 1 day off in a week. Yeah, but you guys should meet as often as possible. Let's say 6 times in a week, then 1 day should be your day off. Yeah. The reason why you actually need a study partner is just so that you can have people that will keep you accountable, people that will keep you going. Honestly, there are moments you feel like, oh, I'm tired, why do I even need to read for this exam? But when you see that Choma is reading, or John is reading, or Munachi is reading, you'll be motivated to just continue reading because you started this journey with them and you will really want to finish with them as well. Yeah, so get a partner today if you don't have any. The next strategy is that you should have an aim. What score do you aim? Preferably, I would say aim 250s and above, because the whole match thing is becoming more competitive these days, especially if you are going for all these competitive specialties. So try to be getting 250s to be on the safer side. Yeah. So how do you actually gauge this? You use your NBME marks or your UWOD self-assessment to gauge. So let's say you do your first 2 NBMEs, you'll be like, okay, what did I get? I got like 240, I got like 230. If you got 230, there is room for improvement. You can read more questions and then do another NBME and see if you are improving. If you are not improving, let's say you are getting 210, 220, then you know that, okay, something is wrong. Maybe I have knowledge gap, or maybe I don't really know how to answer the questions. It's possible I actually have good knowledge of these topics, of these terms, but then when it's now time to choose an answer, I think for so long, or I get confused, or I just don't really get it right. So just try to find out what is wrong. Why am I having low scores? Or what is it that I'm doing that I'm not doing it right? Or maybe there is a system that is very difficult. Then I need to go and read these systems more. Let's say ethics or quality improvement. Then I have to go and solve more questions on quality improvement. Just find out the topics or the subjects or the systems that you are finding difficult. When you realize this, then you can go to UWOD, focus on those areas, read them again and again, and then come back and do another NBME. Hopefully you improve. Yeah. So don't go for this exam if you are not doing well in your NBMEs. Honestly, it's better to take time and read once and pass this exam than rushing and then going for the exam and failing. Honestly, it will not be nice at all. The next strategy is that how you read your UWOD matters, or your QBank matters. I would say read the whole QBank once. After reading it once, you now go back and read all the questions you failed. When you do this, you solve your NBME and see where your score is. If your score is good, then you know that, okay, I can go ahead and book this exam. But if your score is not good, then you might think of reading more questions, solving more questions, or even doing UWOD all over again. Everything depends on how well you are doing or how poor you are doing. And another thing I would say is that when you see that you are hitting your target score, let's say 250 and above, then that is the right time to book the exam. You book this exam and then you give yourself 1 month to revise anything you want to revise. You can go to your Anki deck and revise your Anki questions and answers. You can go to UWOD and maybe read more of the questions you failed. Just do a lot of revisions. Or let's say you wrote some things down in your notes, you can go to your notes and read. Just do revision for this 1 month, right? At the end of this 1 month, go and do your exam and hopefully you do well. The last strategy on my list is pray to God. Honestly, you need God for this exam, because I have seen people who have studied, spent money, did everything they had to do, like their whole life revolved around studying for this exam, but at the end of the day they still failed. I cannot say what went wrong. I just cannot say. All I can say is that you need God, because on the exam day anything could happen. It's possible you had anxiety, or your eyes started paining you, or you started having headache, or you started having hypoglycemia, or you started having depression, or you started having low attention span, or your brain just went blank, that you cannot even think, or you cannot even solve a question, or you are just wasting time solving a question. or trying to get an answer. Anything could have happened. So you need God to help you prepare for this exam, help you write this exam, and also help you to pass and come out in flying colors. That's all I have to say for this exam. If you are preparing for USMLE Step 2, I wish you the best of luck, and I really pray that you would write, pass well, and come out with the very high score. If this is your first time on my channel, please try and subscribe, like this video, share this video to your friend. Hopefully I'll be bringing more and more informative videos to this channel, so stay tuned. Bye.